Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about Antidote to Oblivion, written by Philip Martin. This sees the return of Syl into the series, as Philip Martin seems to write no other character apart from Syl. This sees him go up against the Sixth Doctor and Flip. So this is the first time that Syl has encountered another companion other than Perry. And yeah, there's not really much to talk about. I mean, Philip Martin, we've tackled before with his three previous stories with Vengeance on Varos, Mission to Magnus, and Mind Warp. And so, again we're tackling a Philip Martin story with Syl. I've discovered that this is a really popular story. If anybody was going to recommend you a Flip story, they would recommend you this one. And although I preferred the two previous stories that we've talked about, it's still a pretty decent adventure. So that's the official Big Finish CD cover with Nabil Shaban on the cover there, and also, obviously I make my own DVD cover. It's not as amazing. I don't know if you can tell, but it's a bit pixelated. It's like a really low quality on there. I actually put this one together myself. Here's the spine if anyone is interested. And here's the spine. Yep. Look at that really cool bird. Colin Baker. It's like, do you mean me? The story actually starts off with the Doctor and Flip on a little holiday as the Doctor's trying to relax. And they've apparently been there for a while, and Flip just wants to get into an adventure. And right off the bat, we get introduced to the dynamic. So this is a great jumping on point if you're not too interested in the dilemma of how the Doctor and companion meet. Flip, East End, there you go, I found another terminology than Chav. Her East End persona is a lot undermined in this one. She doesn't get enough dialogue as she does in the previous stories. So she's a lot toned down in this one, which I think actually kind of works a little bit to this story. It still feels like, the thing with the Flips and the Doctor stories is that they feel like they're written in a New Who style, in which the story is equally about the companions and their turmoil as with the Doctor and his turmoil. So take that as you will. And they get a distress signal, a distress beacon, and the Doctor originally plans to ignore it, but it keeps going off, and it seems to be targeted at the TARDIS directly. So after Flip tries to get the Doctor into action by burning his coat, which means that canonically he should have a burnt mark on his coat, unless that was the implication on how he doesn't wear his blue one in this one. Who knows? Or maybe he has more than two jackets. Who knows? They finally go into the TARDIS and investigate. The TARDIS lands them underground in the UK in the future, on the London Underground, where Flip starts coughing because of all the rust and stuff. And whilst they're under there, they discover two individuals, a man and a woman. And Flip asks for water. Now, these people are originally hesitant. They seem to be very on guard. They put guns up to the Doctor and Flip, and they're worried that they're going to steal or take away them. But before realising that these people are not harm to them, does she give them a little bit of her water? And they actually let them continue to go up to the surface. And the doctor starts noticing that Flip starts acting really weird. She starts sitting down and just talking about like life and how everything is amazing, and can they just relax there to enjoy just existing for a moment. And the doctor is like, are you crazy, girl? He looks into her eyes and he notices that her pupils are dilated. Something in that water was a bit funny, something is a bit strange. She's been drugged. And when they get onto the surface, it starts raining. And the doctor decides that because this is pure water, it will flush out the toxins in her body. And so he kind of forces her to drink the water. And after then she gets cured. And they look around and they find that that London has become a dystopia. The rivers with the water has been replaced by bags of bins, and everything just looks disgusting. A great example might actually be the cover where you see the House of Parliament just like in ruins, and we've got the London Underground symbol there. That's the imagery that that comes off, and it worked really well. The art design on the cover to the actual audio itself. It's around here that we get introduced to Syl, who played by Nabil Shaban, who hasn't lost an ounce of what makes his character so enjoyable to watch. He's enjoying every moment of it, and is I don't want to say over the top, but is very lively, larger than life character. Really is shining out in this adventure. He's been working with the human Prime Minister, who is trying to work out a plan to stop overpopulation, and the Prime Minister really doesn't know what to do with himself. Syl has been part of a corporation which now owns the UK, now owns Britain, and they I'm trying to remember what they're called. I don't know what they're called. The Prime Minister keeps asking Syl for funds, and it's put them in an awkward situation where he keeps asking his superiors of funds, and he guarantees them that this will be worth it. They keep asking for more and more money, and Syl's like, they will be a good return, I promise you. And so reluctantly his higher in command, Lord Marv, I believe his name is sends them the funds to work on their project. And also a little bit of that fund is actually gone to Syl's secret little project, to which he's working with a scientist, Miss Cordella, who's been experimenting on individuals. We don't know what is it yet. So yeah, pretty great setup at the start of the story, as we're given this dilemma, this overpopulation, and that also as well the Doctor notices that everybody else on the surface of the Earth doesn't seem to take notice that everything's in ruins, and everybody seems to be smiling and having no resistance to anything. The Doctor quickly works out that there's something in the water. Every available source of water has been contaminated, apart from this particular bottled water, which is being sold by the company that Syl works for. And the Doctor works out that this bottled water has a drug that keeps people happy and non-resistant to any form of getting violent, getting a threat. And so the Doctor's basically planned to track this TARDIS down, and when he does, then find out what's happening, get involved in this particular plot. Episode 1 has the Doctor and Flip going underneath the House of Parliament and discovering a oddly placed tree. But the Doctor recognises the tree. It isn't a tree. It's a TARDIS. Specifically, it is the TARDIS of Anzor. Yes, the Time Lord villain from Mission to Magnus. Philip Martin has decided to connect his stories together with this story, heavily taking elements in terms of plot points from Mission to Magnus as we get Anzor and stuff about him. This story really feels like a combination of all of Philip Martin's stories. Each story plays a part to this adventure in one way, shape or form. When the Doctor, after the Doctor realises this, Syl actually makes himself a presence and notices that the Doctor's been there with a new companion. Syl explains that he actually set up the TARDIS distress signal in a way that would target the Doctor's TARDIS specifically. And so it will attack so that the Doctor will come here and fall into Syl's trap. And that is the cliffhanger to part 1. The rest of the story then has, we learn that Syl has been experimenting on Time Lords to find a particular part of their DNA. This character, the female scientist, Cordella, she has an absolute hatred for the Doctor. And the Doctor tries to work out who she is. He doesn't know her. He has never met her before. But she knows him. And she plans to basically infect Flip and the Doctor with this virus and try to find an antidote. They later explained that they captured Anzor and they put this through experiments, but something went wrong, and Syl shows them Anzor's current state. He has evolved, regenerated in a way, into a little strange creature, as Flip describes him, a pink potato with slug-like eyes, like eyes on sticks to a potato. That's what she says. And Syl treats this Anzor's new form, to which I think he can only say one word, flabbergast, I think it is. Syl kind of keeps him as a pet, kind of showing the more disturbing Syl, who doesn't care about human life. He only cares about profit and getting a return for his company. It's also around here that we get to learn that there is a rival organisation who is led by Mistress Ma. She doesn't play a much big plot in this, but I think it's important to mention her for a particular reason. And she is also the same species as Syl, I believe. So basically it's a lose-lose situation for everyone on Earth. The Doctor and Flip get imprisonment and they have a little chat and talk about, and they have recollections. And yeah, Syl brings up the fact that what happened to your... Have you ever told her about your previous companion? What's her name? Mary, Derry. Her name is Perry. And so the Doctor and Flip actually talk about Perry, and he explains that his memories are a bit fuzzy of the moment, but he knew that Time Lords intervened with it because the situation got out of hand, and he explains that in one timeline she was assassinated, she was killed, she was actually dead. However, because of the Time Lord's intervention, it kind of split into multiple timelines. And in one of them, she survived and lived with Brian Blessed's character. Now, this is obviously a reference to the much hated retcon of Perry actually being alive, in which we saw in The Ultimate Foe. And Perry's death itself is a reference to Mind Warp, in which Lord Kiff transplanted his brain into Perry's body, and the Time Lords then assassinated her by trapping Brian Blessed in a bubble to a specific time so that he could kill them, everybody in the room, pretty much. This is actually as well a reference to another story which I haven't listened to, a story called Perry and the Pissclock Paradox, in which it's revealed that only one version of Perry died. There were actually several splinters in the timeline, and different Perrys exist in different timelines. One of them being the Perry in that story. I believe she dies, and she is also was put back on Earth by the Time Lords. One of them then stayed with Brian Blessed, and another one actually gets referenced in the comic books to try and connect it all together. So that's really cool, but I'm not talking about that story, I'm talking about this. And we get a really important scene for the Sixth Doctor as he talks about Perry, and he basically states that he extremely misses her, and that one day he's going to go back to discover where there are more splinters of her in her timeline. And Flip kind of is listening in and debating. What's her name? Cordelia then asks the Doctor, you seriously don't know who I am? And she goes, look into my eyes. They say I have my father's eyes. And it's revealed that she is actually the daughter of the scientist that worked on the Doctor, on Kiff, on Perry during Mind Warp. And she believes that the Doctor was responsible for her father's death, and that's why she has an absolute hatred of the Doctor. And that the Doctor tries to deny this. He states that his memories have been fuzzy of this recollection, but he's pretty sure he didn't kill her father. He wasn't responsible for that. At worst, it's the Time Lords. At best, it was Syl himself. But she is constantly pushing in, and it's like, no, Doctor, it was you. You are treacherous. You're not supposed to be trusted. And so they later explain that they're not looking. They basically found a disease. Basically, the Black Death, a sequel to the Black Death. You can make it. They've basically made a resurrected form of the Black Death, the new Black Death, and that they're trying to look for an antidote. And their plan is that when they get into the Doctor's DNA, into a Time Lord's DNA, to make a really strong antidote, then the disease, they can spread the disease throughout the UK, killing, I believe they wanted 40%, whilst leaving everybody else to pay for a cure. That's basically Syl's business plan, to spread this disease, only then to have the humans to pay him for a antidote. And so the Doctor and Flip get part of the experiments, and they go in into the cabinet, and first nothing happens at them. The Doctor actually explains that one of the TARDIS's gifts is that it immunes them to most, if not all, illnesses. This is actually a reference to Patient Zero, in which is first stated that the TARDIS has a defense mechanism to stop bacteria and viruses to get onto the TARDIS, which didn't work for Charlie in that story because she was out of time. She had a strange relation with time. So here it's actually protecting Flip. However, there is another part of this virus. It is a psychic virus, and the Doctor asks Flip not to let anybody into their minds, otherwise they would leave their bodies defenseless, allowing for the virus to come in. But Flip starts hearing a voice, a person called Filipina, to let her sleep, to let her comfort. And Flip starts kind of, I guess, hallucinating, stating that this creature is her friend and that she wants her to rest. But the Doctor's like, no, don't! But then the Doctor starts hearing voices. He starts hearing these creatures which he identifies as the germs. It turns out that these are highly advanced germs that have almost like a part hive brain, and that they're actually intelligent, and they take on the host bodies and infect them and take over their bodies. And so the Doctor tries to fight it off and succeeds. They both succeed, and disappointed with the results, Corellia takes them out and explains like what happened, how did you think, how is thing, and Syl is getting angry, getting mad that the scientists are not doing a job. But then Flip states that she can still hear the voice, and then she starts coughing and she starts coming down as the entire place becomes infected and goes under lockdown. Yes, I know. So the Doctor and has to basically team up with Syl to try and find an antidote for this virus, for this infection. What I really love about this scene is that Flip basically realizes that she has been used as a guinea pig for Syl and Corellia to make an antidote so that they can profit off it by killing millions and taking the profits of those who live. And she knows this. And so she is like, Doctor, just let me die. I know you're going to miss me and that. It's horrible, but I'd rather die than let them win and let them use the human race as their own bank. But the Doctor's not listening, and he is determined to save her life. And so the Doctor works with Corellia to find an antidote, to find a cure. It's also here that the two characters in the tunnel. I completely forgot about them. One point earlier on in the story, the Doctor and Flip escape back into the tunnels. But the male of the two characters that are living in the underground actually gives up their position to tell them that they're looking for the Doctor and Flip. So he tells the authorities where they are, and they recapture them, and they are actually let back into society to get medals from the Prime Minister because the Doctor and Flipper were wanted criminals, and they get their jobs back and they get to live in a nice hotel. But their relationship seems to break apart as the girl thinks that that he's given in, that he is betrayed her trust and betrayed everybody. We get a really good scene in which after she come out of the shower, she's like, I can't clean myself anymore of the disgust that I feel on myself, and that whatever I do, I just can't love you anymore. I can't respect you anymore. And the man later gets a job at the centre of everything to get. He gets a job at working at the water supply system. And that little subplot is really good, and it helps balance out the plot line as we let the Doctor and Flip story build up, and then we can cut back to them for a little bit to relieve of some of the tensions and stuff. The girl actually gets taken by Sil to become a new assistant for Consella, but obviously because she wasn't really entrusted with this, she wasn't really into this whole the way of their living. She quickly betrays them and lets the Doctor and Flip go free, and they escape with the Doctor finding a antidote, but it's too late. A virus starts spreading. The Doctor gets caught up with Sil at one point, and Celia, being so angry at the Doctor and everything, listens in on a security camera on a security screen, and it's here that it's revealed that the Doctor didn't kill her father. Sil did, because he didn't do his job on keeping Kif alive, and so he was murdered by the mentors, Sil's race. And with Colvia, with anger, goes out to try and kill Sil, who's now gone to the House of Parliament so that he can get onto his ship and fly off, as he does have a sort of antidote for this virus, which is spreading out throughout the House of Parliament. So she gets infected, and the Doctor and Flip try and get away, and they slowly start realising that people are rebelling, they're revolting, that they start attacking the House of Parliament. It's revealed that the man who they first met in the underground actually had a plan to basically get himself up to authority, and the reason he didn't tell his girlfriend is because he was afraid that there were security and their room might be bugged. And what he's been doing, he's been stopping this drug to getting into the water supply, and that nobody's been taking this drug for the past 3 days, and the effects of it have been wearing off. And so the story ends with Kovia going to the Prime Minister's room, notices that Sil isn't there, but she lets the virus, which she gets consumed by, infect the Prime Minister and his cabinet, whilst everybody on the outside burns the building to the ground, destroying all known traces of the virus. As the Doctor and Flip leave, we cut to a scene in which Sil is actually rescued by Mistress Ma, who states that basically from her point of view, she's actually profited from this. So she wants to basically work with Sil, and she takes him with her. And that Sil then, the story ends on a humorous joke as Sil catches a cold, and he's worried that, and he's like, oh dear, I hope I haven't caught anything. And that ends our story. Overall, it is a very fun story. There's some really light-hearted moments, like the Doctor's coat being burnt. The story is also extremely serious with the viruses and the infections and the business corporations. In that way, it's kind of feeling really relevant to our society. Who is I'm recording this in October, so on October 2020. So as far as I'm concerned, we've just gone back into another lockdown here in Wales. So that's terrifying. Sil is always as fun as always, and there's not really much to complain about. I also really like the tie-ins that it has to other Sil adventures, with Anzor from Mission to Magnus, the daughter of the scientist from the Mind Warp, and the Doctor mentioning that one day he wants to return to Perry and to her, and wants to see if she's okay, if she's doing alright. And the entire feel of the story, in which people are getting experimented on, and Sil is like at the top of the food chain as he manipulates everybody, feels a lot like Vengeance on Varos. And so this feels like a kind of conclusion. This is also the last appearance as of 2020 of Sil in Big Finish, and any interaction with the Sixth Doctor. And that's Antidote to Oblivion. So join me next time, where we will actually be taking a detour from Doctor Who as we see what Sil is up to after this adventure, as he gets put onto trial for a different incident. So join me next time for Sil and the Devil Seeds of Avador. I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da!